Welcome, everyone, to the MDV The Blueprint podcast. I am your host, Michael Della, Vella, and today we have a fantastic guest and a good friend of mine, Bob Wilson with Howard Hanna Mortgage. And hopefully at the end of this 30 minutes, you guys will have learned a lot about Bob and gotten some great advice on loan originations. So without further ado, my good friend, Bob Wilson. Bob, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great.
Good to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Beautiful day today, except for the smoke.
You know, I haven't been out enough today to see what's been going on. I'm just seeing it on text and on Twitter. Is this Canadian fires again?
Yeah, Canadian fires again, and it smells like a bonfire when you walk out of your house.
Why?
Because all that smoke's coming down from Canada.
But I thought all the rains the
atmosphere.
last couple of weeks have put this out.
No, it's back. It's back in force.
Yeah, I did see a text this morning from one of my friends that was going downtown to Sherwin-Williams. He's like, you cannot see downtown Cleveland or anything past in front of you. It's that bad.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Oh, it's terrible. Okay, Bob, so let's get into it. I would love to hear from you. Give me, again, we've known each other for a long time, but the people listening haven't known you for 30 plus years. So why don't you tell me the Bob Wilson backstory?
Well, it's a long story, but we'll try to keep it short and brief. I dropped out of high school when I was about 16 years old, thought I knew more than all the teachers and everybody around me. So I left school, and later on, when I turned about 18 years old, my dad gave me an ultimatum to find a job, go back to school, or just basically get out of his house. And that's when I joined the military and joined the Navy and learned how to straighten my act out a little bit. While I was in the Navy, I got my GED, started going to college, completed my college education after I got out of the Navy with a degree in finance with a concentration in real estate. And that led to me becoming a mortgage loan officer, which is where I am today.
Was your first job with Smythe Kramer?
Actually, my first job was with First Nationwide Bank, and then I was with Woodside Mortgage, and then I became a loan officer with then Smythe Kramer, which later became Howard Hanna.
And that's where I met you, with Smythe Kramer Bay Village office, Kathy Lamus. Wow, you've been
a million years ago.
Long time. What would you say, again, someone that's done that this long and been successful? What is your blueprint to success?
Well, I think a loan officer in this market, if you don't provide great customer service and just try to take care of everything for your customers, be there for them any time of the day or night. If you're on vacation, you still got to answer calls. If you're at home with your family in the evening, you got to still take calls. You got to be there for your customers 100% of the time to make sure they get the service that they need to get their transaction closed. And also attention to detail. You've got to pay very, very close attention to every detail in the transaction to make sure the customer is well taken care of and that nothing slips through the cracks that would prevent them from closing on their house. It's somebody's dream to buy a house. We got to take care of them from beginning to end.
Yeah, and I can attest to that you always pick up the phone. You're always there to answer the next question. There's never a bad time for you, and I'm sure that's come with a cost over the years. But you are excellent at communicating and keeping people informed and the buyers. So, bravo to you! You do a fantastic job of that.
Well, I know you don't have a choice but to operate pretty much the same way. You have to be available for your customers. You provide excellent customer service. It's what we have to do in our industry. It's the only way we can succeed.
I agree. I'm too available always. And sometimes
I feel the same way.
Again, now with my family being older, the kids gone, if I had to go back and know what I know now and know that I could call someone back in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I probably wouldn't have done and made some of the decisions that I did over the years. Some of them were silly because you always can get back to everybody. And I got to pick up the phone, got to take a call, no matter where.
I know the feeling. Exact same.
You can solve the problem in 5 minutes. It's not going to take care of itself immediately when that phone rings. So that's good advice. If you, I know you mentor people in this industry. What advice do you have for young loan officers that are just getting started and trying to build a business? Would you go through the same thing, that communication?
You can never communicate too much. I mean, and don't lie. Don't overpromise. Make sure you're telling the customer what you can deliver. Don't promise more than you can deliver. Just make sure you take good care. And it's not just the end customer, it's the realtor as well. If you don't take care of their business, they're not going to trust you with their commission. So you've got to take care of two sets of customers in the mortgage origination platform. We got to take care of both. We got to keep everybody happy and continue to generate business. And I also tell them, don't expect to get rich quick. This is not all of a sudden you're going to become a loan officer and tomorrow you're going to make $100,000. You got to build your book of business. You got to build your referral sources, work on generating future business by making people happy and continuing to take care of people. So it just continues to grow and improve over time.
Good points. Have you seen, and I know the answer to this, but how challenging has this year been for you? And what do you expect going forward the rest of the year? And what are you doing to overcome these challenges?
Well, I don't know how we're going to overcome the challenges, because the biggest challenge we have right now is inventory. I mean, we can have buyers pre-approved left and right, have tons of people to work with, prepare them for the negotiations and everything that they have to go through. But if there's no product to sell them, it's really a tough market right now. I just had a conversation with a senior vice president with Howard Hanna Mortgage, and he's been in the business over 30 years as well. And we both agreed we've never seen a market like this before, where there's just been tons of people that want to buy a house, but just nothing to sell them. It's just a very difficult time. I joke with everybody that I say a prayer every night, praying for more listings, because we just don't have enough product for the consumers that want to buy.
Yeah, I mean, that's so obvious. I mean, I have, anyone I talk to is in the same boat. We don't know where we would go. We like to, but people that want to move up. Have you seen a challenge with the move up buyer that they're going to pay way much more and pay more for a mortgage for where they're at right now, and they do not want to make the change of sell the old house? Do you think that's affecting?
Well, I mean, it's going to come into their thought process. If they currently have a 2.5% or 3% interest rate on their mortgage, and they're going to come into the market, they're going to have to take out a mortgage on the new house potentially. And if they do, they're going to be at 6.5%, 6.75% rate on a new mortgage. So there's a big spread there. There's a big cost to making that move into a bigger house right now versus just 2.5 years ago. So that interest rate differential, I think, is causing some people to balk. And again, not having the inventory, where are they going to go? I mean, we're lucky. We have the product called the Buy Before You Sell program, where we can help customers buy a house before they sell their current house to hopefully add listings to the portfolio. But it's just a really tough market to get people to list right now.
Would you mind elaborating on that program, which is a fantastic program?
I can go into I won't go into the weeds, but just the beginning of it. Basically, it allows you to borrow against your existing home, the equity that you currently have, to use that as a down payment on the new house. Now, you still have to qualify for the old house and the new house together, so it has to be a very well qualified buyer, but enables you to make a purchase prior to actually selling your house and puts you in a position to be out of your house, stage it, have it ready to put on the market to sell without having to deal with the showings all the time because you're already in the new house. So it's a way to help people advance some of that equity, get them into the new house, and then look at potentially recasting the new mortgage once they actually sell their current home.
Interesting. You say recasting. I mean, that's like the hot buzzword right now.
It's huge. People are doing it all the time now.
Yeah, interesting. Are people, I'm sorry, are buyers and agents putting their clients into the buy before you sell, or are they not educated enough on that?
I would say some agents are using it fairly regularly. Other agents don't understand enough about it, which I tell them they don't have to understand it. They just have to get them in front of us so we can explain it to them and help them get involved with it. But it's a program that can overcome an objection and help somebody potentially buy a house now versus waiting to do it down the road.
Is that the best product that you have to offer the consumer right now?
For that situation. But a lot of times we discuss borrowing against 401ks. We look at other avenues. We look at their whole picture. We don't just present the buy before you sell, and that's all they can do. There's other things we can look at from their asset portfolio. Can they afford to make a down payment without borrowing against their house so we can limit their out-of-pocket costs? We look at the whole picture and try to advise them from a full perspective.
Do you see FHA and VA making a comeback this year?
Not yet. They both reduced their upfront costs for the MIP and the VA funding fee. So those things were adjusted to kind of make them a little bit more competitive in the marketplace and help those products grow. But again, with the low inventory, for some reason, both of those products are somewhat stigmatized. So when you write an offer for an FHA buyer, you're going up against conventional offers in cash. The premise is they're gonna look at the conventional or cash over the FHA when really those products are very similar. And it's sad that they're pushed down to the bottom of the pile like VA is, because veterans certainly deserve an opportunity to buy a house, and it's very frustrating. You and I have talked about that before. That's a buzz for me that really irritates me, because I really believe veterans deserve an opportunity to buy a house.
And we both know what a great product it is. And here's a good story. Memorial Day weekend, I had a listing, put it on, I think that Friday, Memorial Day comes around, and I get an offer, and had a conventional and I think two conventionals, and we had a VA, and the VA actually won out. It was by far the best, most qualified buyer of the three offers we had. And again, on Memorial Day, that we sold a home to a veteran, which was a great feeling. And the home just closed, and it was a very easy transaction. So the stigma with VA, I think people need to educate themselves, or loan officers need to educate the buyer. But there was no issues. The appraisal, no, the inspection, the pest inspection, I think was $90 to the seller, and everything was fine. But it went off without a hitch. And again, it was a great product. And I've done, this is the only one I've done this year. It's probably been 3 years since I've been involved with one, but it's a great product. So I don't think people should be afraid of stuff like that.
I think the issue is just educating the industry. We've got a lot of realtors out there that still think VA is this difficult transaction to work through when it's really so similar to conventional now. There's really no reason not to allow it to go through.
Take me through your process of start to finish if I'm your client and I need to get qualified.
Well, I always start with everybody with a telephone interview. I like to go through and interview the client and find out exactly what they're bringing to the table, what their pros and cons are, so we can look at the whole picture. Once we complete that interview, I email them a credit authorization to get their permission to pull the credit report. Once I have the credit report in front of me, we send them a secure link with a list of all the documents that they need to provide. It's tailored to their specific situation. So I'm not going to ask them for something unless it came up in the interview that we discussed, something that they actually need to provide in the transaction. And then I give them the option. They can either upload it electronically, or we can meet face-to-face and hand off the paperwork. We can handle it whatever way the customer is comfortable handling the transaction, so we can get that pre-approval started. And I'm assuming you're asking me about the pre-approval process. Or are you talking about the whole process from beginning to closing on a house?
We can start about pre-approval, and then we can You can talk about, I don't know if they're Bob's 10 Commandments of, I love that. So, but that's a good one. But
yeah, I don't have that
that's where I
sitting
get
right in
going.
front of me right now.
You do or
But
don't?
yeah, I don't have it sitting in front of me, but that's I have a flyer that I give out to the realtors and customers. It's called the 10 Commandments of Buying a House, and one of them is don't buy a car in the process or you might end up living in it. I mean, just little examples like that, so that it kind of makes a joke out of all the mistakes that buyers make in the transaction or potentially make. So we can shine a flashlight on it up front so that they don't make those mistakes as they're going through the process. Like, don't spend your down payment dollars.
You do have that conversation. You have to.
Yeah, that's part of the process of the interview.
No matter how many times you say it, it still can happen and does happen.
Well, that's why I always urge the realtors to do the same thing. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And then the first time home buyer and the second time home buyer and everybody, they start to understand that you can't do those things.
Real simple here. Good question. What is your best advice for a buyer?
Best advice is don't go out and start looking at houses until you got a pre-approval in front of you. You need to get the pre-approval so you understand what price range you can actually qualify for before you start looking at a price range for houses. If you're qualified for a $300,000 house and you're looking at $450,000 houses, you're never going to be able to dial back your comfort level or your excitement for a house back down to that $300,000 level if you've been out looking at $450,000 houses. Those two products are just not going to compare to each other. So get pre-approved first. Get pre-approved first. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Make sure you're getting the right product for what you need. Talk to somebody with experience in the industry.
Speaking of you saying, get a second opinion, do you still offer that incredible program with Howard Hanna Mortgage?
Yes, we do.
Want to explain that?
Yeah, Howard Hanna offers a second opinion for anyone that's already pre-approved. If they sit down with a Howard Hanna mortgage loan officer and get pre-approved, they can get a $100 gift card.
That's fantastic. And that's been going on for years.
Yeah, that's been going on probably, I want to say 8 years probably.
How many of the cards that you give out, do you figure it out in your head? Like, are you at 50-50, higher than that you get those second opinions?
I would say that we give the second opinion, and more often than not, we earn that business because we get an opportunity. I know I do a better job explaining the transaction and educating the buyer than most average loan officers do. So you really earn that trust with your customer, and they learn right away that I'm looking out for their best interests. I'm not just looking out for a paycheck. I want to make sure that I do the best thing for them in the long run.
And I can vouch for you. I've seen you do it, and always comfortable giving your name out to one of my clients because you do a wonderful job of educating the buyer and making sure that they're a comfort level. Because I mean, let's think about it. It is such a emotional purchase. It's the biggest purchase most people make in their life. They want to make sure that they made the right decision. You probably have mom, dad, your friends of theirs, cousins, all chirping in their ear. You need to talk to this guy. You need to talk to this guy. So it's not easy. So what you do is what makes you stand out from everyone else.
I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. So, Bob, one thing that I have always admired, and it's definitely sticks out about you, is you have this discipline, attention to detail, organization about you. Your office is meticulous, always put together. Where did that come from in your life?
Well, to be honest with you, Michael, I think that comes from the time I spent working in the service and being in the military. I mean, you obviously have to pay very close attention, especially when you're working on a flight deck around aircraft, loading bombs, missiles, rockets. You have to be very detailed in how you handle everything. And then after I got out of the Navy, for a short period of time, I became a McDonald's manager. and went through the whole training process for that. And I've never worked at a job where you had to have more detail to every individual detail just to make sure that store could make money, from the labor to the, the cleanliness, just making sure everything, every minute of every day had to be exactly perfect. You got to monitor everything in the store while you're running it. So I just think that's something that's carried forward in my career from those two experiences.
It's funny you say that about the working as a McDonald's manager. I have heard that from other people I know, that whether they loved the job or not, the training was invaluable. And again,
I agree.
McDonald's didn't get to be McDonald's without having an unbelievable program that they run, and they don't change it. It's discipline.
I always joke that it's the hardest working job for the least amount of money.
Wow. And how old were you when you did that?
Oh, I was probably in my early 20s, so 24, 25 years old, somewhere in that range.
Okay, so you were not married.
I was married. I got married when I was 22 years old.
Damn, I didn't know that about you. 20. Did you already have any of your kids? Any of the boys?
Nope, didn't have any kids until I was close to 30.
And Bob, what are the boys doing now?
All three of my boys are accountants with a firm downtown called Cohen. They all work in the same field. They're all auditors for money funds and mutual funds. They just have great careers.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for them. Great kids. And before we wrap up, let's just briefly touch on something that you and I are so passionate about, our Ohio State Buckeyes. I am 100% convinced that we're for sure we're in the Final Four. I definitely think we play for a national championship. There's so much luck that goes into that, and you got to stay healthy, which is part of that luck. But I
Absolutely.
am geeked up for Buckeye football. How about you?
I'm very excited about Buckeye football. I'm a little concerned of how many guys we graduated out last year, but we still have an exceptional core of players. And if you really think about it, last year, that Georgia-Ohio State game was the real national championship. We lost it by a field goal at the end. We should be playing for the national championship. We have the talent. We have the coaching. I just think it's an outstanding program.
And again, is there going to be a bigger game this year than Ohio State, Michigan? Not a chance.
I don't think so.
Not a chance.
I don't think so.
No. And I have never, in all my years of being a Buckeye fanatic and going to school there, I have never been to the Big House for a football game. I've been there for soccer games.
I've never been there either.
I've been there for an
art
art fest.
I've never been there either.
But it will be insane. I mean, absolutely insane. And people can say what they say. That's what makes it such an amazing rivalry, that they beat us 2 years in a row. If they beat us 3, people will lose their mind in Ohio. And again, anybody that didn't believe that he could coach didn't know football, because everywhere he has been, and I'm not even mentioning his name.
There's a reason we don't like him.
He's a great coach, and you got to respect him. And they got some talent. So it's I can't wait for it. I think it'll be great. We do not have, and this is my last fall that I get to spend there with my kid. We do not have a great home schedule this year, but
no,
because Notre Dame's on the road. Do we open our second week with Notre Dame?
It's the 23rd, I believe, that we're playing Notre Dame up in South Bend.
Look at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll get down to a game or two, but not like the last couple of years where the schedule's just been amazing. So
you want to be there for every game the last couple of years.
Well, I have. I just said I didn't go. I'm there every week, and I just don't get to go to every game anymore. But we'll wrap this up. I thank you for your time. It has been very informative. I appreciate you doing this. How can the listeners get in touch with Bob Wilson if they need your services?
Well, I got two different ways you can get a hold of me. One is my email, bobwilson@howardhanna.com. And also my telephone number, cell phone that rings right straight to my pocket, 216-559-3579.
Fantastic. Bob, again, thanks for coming on the MDV Blueprint Podcast, and I will see you around the office.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure to follow us on social media at MDV The Blueprint on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We post a ton of great content. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you never miss out on an episode. Thanks again, and see you next time.